All right, now we'll start. We got the recording going. All right. Welcome, everyone, to MVP Office Hours. If this is your first time on, just give you kind of a glimpse of how this goes. We have really a couple of different ways to ask questions, and it's kind of like the Answers community, but live. So you can either raise your hand within the web meeting, or you can post within the chat, or if there's a dead spot, I'll be asking for people to ask questions, and feel free to speak up at that time. So with that, introductions for the MVPs on the line. Let's go to Mr. Brian Kwong.
Hi, I'm Brian Kwong. I'm also the guy known for wearing a wizard hat around Dreamforce. I'm a certified admin and certified dev, and Visual Flow is my new favorite feature.
All right. And then, Deepa, I think you're the last one out there.
Am I the last one out here?
Yeah, I think it's just me, you, Brian, and...
Oh, I thought I was talking to Brian Burruff. It's Brian Kwong. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, this is Deepa Patel with Halak Consulting, and I'm a Salesforce MVP and the East Bay User Group leader here in Silicon Valley. I also run the Salesforce Certification Study Group on the Success community. And, you know, I'm not perfect, just like I thought I was talking to Brian Burruff.
Well, it can't be perfect.
Welcome to our MVP Office Hours, and we have fun.
Yeah. Thanks, Deepa. This is and I forgot to introduce myself. I'm a little scatterbrained today, trying to get packed up for Dreamforce, leaving tomorrow. So I'm Jared Kingston. I'm a consultant for Aperio, and looking forward to answering people's questions today. So with that, I don't see any other MVPs on the line, so we'll go ahead and get started. And who would like to ask the first question?
I would, if that's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Steve Lusek. Our Chief Revenue Officer wanted to be able to track opportunity life through the different sales stages. And we have 10 different sales stages. And I had asked a question on a previous call. And so what I ended up doing was creating custom fields in the opportunity that basically duplicated those stage names. And then when a stage gets changed, I populate the date in there so that we can go back and look and see, okay, it went from qualification to a defined opportunity to value prop, and went through all of that. The question is, when I did the workflow to update those individual fields, the only way that I could figure out how to do it was to do 10, we have 10 stages, was to do 10 different workflows. Because when you get through the workflow and you have your initial criteria that you're evaluating is true, it only gives you the opportunity to update one field. So I had to update each of those fields in different workflow rules. Was there any other way that you can think of that would have saved me the time of having to create 10 different workflows to achieve that same outcome?
Honestly, this is the way we do it too when we set it up. And I'm going to log into my dev org because this is exactly what we do. We call it opportunity velocity. But because the thing is, you have to look at when the stage changed, and it's not just when the stage changed. There's also other criteria that goes in it, because you don't want people to go back and forth, right?
Right.
And so.
Yeah, I wrote a validation rule. Actually, Steve Moe at a Midwest Dream It event, he actually did a thing on it to using a case formula.
So
I got it
case
so they
statement.
can't. They can't go back. And in the evaluation criteria, I'm using is the stage name field is changed, and then and not equal to the stage that I'm looking at.
Yes.
So that was the only way I could figure out how to change it, because it's not just was the stage changed, but was it changed from
exactly
a different stage to this one?
Yes.
Okay. All
yes.
right.
And so because the entry criteria is so complex, you can't build the whole statement in just one statement, right? Because you also kind of, in a way, run into the compile size limit if you try to do that. Plus, it's just not clean. It's easier to have it in, each different workflow role. That is the way to go. Now, the question I have is, why do you have like 10 stages? It's like does that include your closed won and closed lost?
Yeah, and we have a closed one and active, but we have.
Okay. So this is what I advise when I do any kind of presentation. An opportunity is never inactive, actually. It's either and here's the reason why, because it affects your pipeline, it affects your forecasting. If you're going to forecast that I'm going to close so much business, in the next quarter, and if that business doesn't close, it's actually closed lost unless you have moved it to a further date further out. But if an opportunity is inactive, it's actually closed lost. Like you've lost that opportunity to close that business, and the next time you start, you're probably going to start with a whole new business process just because things went stagnant. And when things go stagnant, where you start the next time is always completely different. So I always advise that opportunity is never inactive. It's you either win it or you lose it. And the reason you give when you're losing it, when you mark it closed lost, is whatever that affects that inactivity.
Okay.
Okay. So I did a presentation last year at Dreamforce when we talked about stages, ideal number of stages, and I'm doing a session again. Are you coming to Dreamforce at all?
Unfortunately, I'm not.
Okay.
Several other people
so
get to go.
After Dreamforce, we're going to have our presentations on YouTube. And again, this year, the ideal number of stages you want is literally like 5 to 8. No more than that. I mean, 8 is even a little bit more. Like I have my 8 stages counting close lost and close won, right? So think about that a little bit, but inactive is usually never a stage. It's like if you're going to go into an inactive mode, you've lost that opportunity, and then you recreate it when that gets rekindled.
Well, the reason that we put that in was the opportunity was, a lot of our businesses, it's daily delivery of information, or it's weekly, or there's different time frames that we can deliver our services. And so if someone starts with us and 6 months later they have a budget cut and that business goes away, we change it from closed won to closed lost so that it's not showing in our reoccurring projected revenue. So I have it so if it's a weekly project, it's going to take the amount times, whatever number of weeks are left in the year.
Yeah.
So then if it goes to inactive, it'll then show zeros for the remainder of that year.
Okay, but you still want to see what you got before. Is that what
Correct.
you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So are you guys kind of driving your actual revenue recognition off of opportunities as well completely?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, there are one-off situations, but ideally, I can see why if you mark it closed lost, you lose it, the history. Okay, that makes sense.
Cool. All right. Well,
okay, but no, you're okay. You're okay
Okay.
because, anytime you go to the changing of the stages, it's not just like is changed or, the case is this. You have to make sure that the stages got there from the previous stage, so you're fine.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
All right. We have a question here from Dan Johnson, and he's just wondering, best practice resource for defining the process involved in utilizing leads or utilizing them today but not necessarily effectively. So Brian, Deepa, I don't know if you guys have any thoughts there.
What was the question? Can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, it's just best practice. I would say, and Dan, feel free to jump in here, but it sounds like just essentially best practice use of leads.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Where are your leads coming from? Are people inputting them manually? Are you getting a list? What's the beginning of your lead process?
So you guys can hear me? My audio's on?
Yeah,
Yes,
go ahead.
we can hear you.
Okay, great. We traditionally have received a lot of inbound leads, and so web forms that have been manually entered by an office person into the lead object, and then into the leads tab, and then those are distributed to our salespeople. And so that, and then call-in leads, the same thing, where a general customer service or operator, if you will, may get an inbound call, and then they turn that into a lead and then distribute it from there. That we're at a point though now where we're going to be relying on our salespeople to utilize marketing automation leads, and so that's a new kind of lead source for us, where it's going to be more outbound, if you will, instead of inbound. And just one more sentence or two that will be helpful. And so traditionally, like in our leads have been immediately converted. Once the salesperson reaches out to them, whether they make contact or not, immediate conversion with an opportunity into a contact. And so it just doesn't seem to make sense now with the new marketing automation leads that we're going to be working, because first of all, not every lead is going to justify having an opportunity created, et cetera. And so that's kind of where I'm at, and I've talked to Salesforce about it this week, and have Acton as our marketing automation partner, and so just trying to get different.
Okay, so you're going to use Acton?
Yes, we are, and just trying to get make the best plan possible as far as changing the process of how we utilize leads in Salesforce.
All right, so I just shared a link with Jared. Can you post that publicly for, I'm sorry, who am I talking to?
It's Dan Johnson.
Okay, Dan. I'm going to post a link. I'm going to ask Jared to post a link for you. This is a presentation we did last year at Dreamforce, which talks about the best practices. So when a lead comes in, there are 3 outcomes of the lead. First, the reps are going to review the lead, and they're going to either accept the lead saying, I'm going to work on this lead, or they're going to reject it saying, this is no good lead, go back. Now, when the lead gets rejected, there are 2 options that you would pick. One is, do we continue to nurture this lead, or this is totally a bad lead? So, for example, no matter where the lead is coming from, sometimes you just have the Mickey Mouses and the Donald Duck leads coming in, right?
Right.
That is such bad data that you're never going to work on that lead, and so you mark it as a dead lead. But then you get, let's say, someone like me saying, you know what, I'm interested, but I didn't fill out my email address, and I didn't fill or certain things, or I gave you the wrong email address, or that's actually bad data. But let's say your rep looks at my lead and says, you know what, I don't have enough information to work on this. Let's go nurture, and what you guys do is you send me more information and you put it back to nurture. So basically, when you reject a lead, there are 2 outcomes, whether you put it in nurture or you mark it completely dead. Now, if the information's good, the rep says, I'm going to accept working on this lead. So like what we do is, and this is kind of what we call the lead velocity as well. And so just like the previous gentleman helped build the workflow rules for the opportunity stages changing to monitor how long it's taking to go from one step to the next, we do that with the lead velocity as well. That when the lead stage changes from, like when a rep accepts it, we mark it with today's date, that the date I accepted it, and then the rep makes phone calls and starts working on the leads, and so you capture all the activity. And then at some point, they're either going to qualify that lead or they're going to disqualify. So let's say I think you guys are selling, let's say wind chimes, and I'm like, oh, I'm looking at this wind chime, and then you send me a couple sample, like recordings of what your wind chimes look like, and I'm like, I don't know that I want to. And at that point, the rep disqualifies me simply because what I thought you guys are selling is not what you're selling, and it's like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to be able to get any business out of this person. We're going to disqualify them. They're not necessarily a bad lead. They're just disqualified because they're not a right fit. And when you do that disqualification, you give a reason saying, why am I disqualifying? And there could be a number of reasons why you disqualify that lead. And when you disqualify that lead, you once again have two outcomes. For someone like me who's like, yeah, I don't like it right now, doesn't mean I'm completely a dead lead, right? So you put me in the nurture queue, and you're going to keep sending me information until I go, okay, I got enough, I'm going to unsubscribe. Which in that point, it's like, okay, I'm completely not interested. But you put me back into the nurture mode. And there's a little bit of time that goes between since I started working with you, since I came to that outcome. Now, when I come to the qualified outcome where I've qualified this lead, that's when I say, okay, do I have a 10% chance of getting business out of this person? And if the answer is yes, that's when I convert it to an account contact and opportunity. If the answer is no, I still leave it as qualified. I work on it harder to get to the point where, okay, there's going to be a 10% chance of getting business, and then you convert it to account contact and opportunity. So the best practices is you want to capture every activity that's happening while you're working through this process to qualify the lead, and you go through these stages, whether you're accepting, you're rejecting, or you're disqualifying the lead. And that whole process is outlined in the presentation we did last year at Dreamforce, and Jared just shared the link with you.
Yeah, I got it, and that's very helpful. I'll ask you one more question then. So when is the best practice is when there is a conversion of the lead, and there is I guess any conversion to a contact account record, does that constitute the creation of an opportunity at the same time, or are there situations where the creation of an opportunity may not be the best thing to do?
So it depends on the business, right? Like normally, if you're going to use leads, I always stress that unless you're ready to have that 10% chance of closing business, don't convert it to an account contact and opportunity.
Okay.
But there has to be a very different scenario. Like if you're not using leads at all, then yeah, you create an account and a contact and don't create an opportunity. But it's also on the business process, right? Like not knowing which your processes are. It's hard for me to say do this or do that. But you have to look at your business process and determine what makes sense. Like if you look at lead conversion reports, if that's going to be something important to you, then creating an account contact and not creating an opportunity truly doesn't make sense because you're converting ahead of time and not creating an opportunity. If you want a full continuity on how long did it take for me to get this customer to become a customer, right? So, if you're going to look at how long did it take to convert the lead and then how long did it take to win the opportunity, if there's no continuity, those numbers are not going to work. So it depends on the process. It depends on how you're designing your process in Salesforce, and it depends on, at the end of the day, what is your KPI? What do you want to see?
Thank you.
Cool.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Deepa. All right, our next question comes from Jen. So, Jen, you have your hand up. Do you want to go ahead with your question?
Okay. Good afternoon. I have an approval process that I just created, and it's sending out the notification. It's working great, except that when I get the notification, when I look at the email, it says the from email, which I set it up. From email is from whoever triggered the workflow or the approval process. And there's reply to, which is the Salesforce email, so that a person can actually reply with approve, and they'll approve it in Salesforce. But in my email, I'm using Gmail. When I click on reply, it actually comes back to whoever was the person that triggered the email. It doesn't use the reply to email. So I don't know if that's Is it my email client, or is this how it's supposed to work?
Did you replace the reply to, like, in order for that to work, you have to reply to the system-generated email that came from Salesforce. Are you replacing the reply back to the person?
You mean in Salesforce? I set that up?
Yeah, like, are you using a different email address?
No, so when I look at the email that I got from the approval process, the from is the person who actually triggered the approval process. The reply to is the Salesforce generated email.
It replies to Salesforce, right?
Right. Correct. It's that email approval with a long string of numbers and that Salesforce.com.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Reply,
that's what it should.
Okay. When I click on reply, it actually doesn't use that reply to.
I'm not quite so sure I'm understanding. Jared, can you step in, or
Yeah.
Brian?
Yeah, and it is a little hard to hear you, Jen. It seems like you're far away from there. But so you're saying you have it set up, the email comes in from the system-generated email, but yet when you hit reply to, it goes to the person who essentially submitted that. Is that correct?
So when I get the email from Salesforce, from is the email address of the person who generated the approval process, who triggered the approval process. Reply to is the Salesforce email address, the Salesforce generated email address. So in my email, when I click reply, it doesn't actually go to that Salesforce generated email. It goes to a person in the from. If it's my Gmail issue, or if it's, I know when I get that Salesforce email address, that that's how it's supposed to work. It's supposed to work that way. It's supposed to generate that Salesforce.
Now, is it happening just for you, or is this happening for every user?
It's for every. I haven't tested it with other users actually. I'm just testing it on myself for now.
I don't know. I don't know that I've encountered that.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of, even then I can't really think of why that would be occurring. What email client did you say again?
Email.
Sorry.
Gmail?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see, I use Gmail too, and I don't think I've ever encountered that.
So you can apply for an approval?
Yeah, it goes to Salesforce.
Okay.
There must be something in your setting that's overriding that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm going to suggest. If you can take a screenshot of your setup and put it in the MVP office hours, then we can try and help you. Because without really looking at it, it's hard to figure out where things are going wrong.
Okay. I have the screenshot of the email actually. The email address that I see where it says from and then reply to.
Yeah, but also we need like what you set up in Salesforce.
Okay.
Like what are your email settings in Salesforce for that email?
Yeah, and also what you're clicking, like the click path of when you get that email. Are you using the standard reply button in Gmail, or how are you?
Yeah, the standard reply.
Okay. Yeah, if you post a message with a screenshot, maybe we can try and troubleshoot it, because without really logging in to your org and looking at it, it's hard to figure out what's going wrong.
Okay. Is it officehours.info? Is that where I go?
It's MVP office hours on the Success community, so when you're logged into Salesforce, open up another tab and type success.salesforce.com, and you'll be logged in, and then you can go to look for the group MVP office hours.
Yeah, but you can. Yeah, you actually can type in that URL, the mvpofficehours.info will take you to that.
Okay.
Full short URL we created for. So yeah, that'll take you to the success community.
What's that URL again?
It's mvpofficehours.info. Not .info, sorry. Yeah, the best way is really just to go to the success community and then you search MVP Office Hours.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, so let's see. Next question here on tap is from Dawn, and just looking for configuring Google Maps on a Visualforce page.
Yeah, so my question might be a little bit more complicated or more complex, but I already have a Google integration that I've used an Apex class and a Visualforce page that is set up so that when you click on a technician's record, it brings up all of his installed products in his area. But what I'm looking to do is I want to find a way so that I can color code. So what I have now is I have the main location, their home location is in a red dot, and then all of the other locations are in green dots, but I want the green dots, so the accounts that they're at, to be the color-coded by what machines are at that location. And then if there's multiple, you just make that one color.
Oh, gotcha. I'm going to, Brian, I know your voice is going, but do you have any thoughts here?
It really kind of depends on how you're generating the map. In the past, the way I've done it is actually I'm calling the map and generating the pips on the map with JavaScript, at which point that's what's controlling is the JavaScript logic that says, hey, if this meets this criteria, then put a pip of this color out there.
Yeah, because I'm using jQuery and jQuery mobile files, and I'm using JavaScript to pull in the Google Map.
Yeah. So, let's see. Do I actually keep my little sample code of that? That's the question. I'll have to find it because I don't remember the exact syntax off the top of my head. But it's basically nothing more than a bunch of if statements to say, hey, check to see if it meets this criteria. If it meets that criteria, then add a pip of this color. If it doesn't meet that criteria, add a pip of a different color.
Okay.
But that's all done on the JavaScript side as the map is rendering.
Okay. And then, so I have the constructor that I have is, well, it's both so I have the SOCL query on top, and then I have the remote action on the bottom that brings up like all of the statements that I want, like limit to this person on this state and this postal code and all of that stuff. But so all of the information from the account object is rendering, but once I want to put information like a field text in the info window on that Google map, it shows up as undefined. It doesn't even leave it as blank, it's just undefined. And I'm wondering if it's because it won't let me go to that different object because I have to stay on the account object?
Should it make a difference if you're using a remote action to gather the data? Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't really have a good answer for you.
Well, that's okay. I just thought I would ask.
I mean, all I could say is, when I've done it in the past, is my remote action called out to the controller to grab the data. For me, it was account information and some user information. And then in the JavaScript that it called the remote action, I'm just looping through the results. And as I loop through the results, check to see if the result matched my criteria and put the appropriate color pip on the map from there. But exactly why something would be null, it's kind of tough to do over the phone.
Yeah, correct.
You could what I would do is maybe go grab and do a paste bin, or put your code into a text file or something like that and post it to the group so we can take a look at it.
Okay, yeah, I can do that.
Awesome.
Perfect, thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Brian. All right, the next question here is Don Sederholm. And Don, you have a question on Web2Case?
Yes, just kind of around basic functionality to see if I have an understanding of Web2Case correctly. So it's kind of more than a single question. It's one of the things is with Web2Case, can you use the existing page layouts, or do you need to create a new page layout for the Web2Case? Second question is, can you map fields like we want all the cases to go to a single generic account in this situation? Is it possible to map the account field along with the other fields that you map in terms of the form that people fill in from the web?
Yeah, so I can take that one. Yeah, so in your first question, no, you don't have to have a different page layout because the form will just be external, right? So when you generate the form, you'll just modify the HTML there to make the form look however you want it to, and then your page layout can stay the same in Salesforce. So no changes needed there. On your second question, you can default values within the HTML and have that field essentially hidden behind the scenes. So that would be possible. My only concern there is if you're saying a specific account, like an account record in Salesforce, or a user, like an owner record.
No, it would be the account for the cases is pretty much all the same account.
Gotcha. So, I mean, you could, and I don't know, Brian, Brian Deepa, I don't know, maybe you know better than me, but I think you'd probably have to hard code the ID there, which would probably not be a good idea. So I'm not sure how you would do that.
Yeah.
I don't know either.
You either have to hard code the ID on WebCase form.
Hello, this is Martin. Can I help you?
Or you would need to do something after the case is created to update it. And depending on what that is, that's usually Apex, unless it's if it's for the record type.
Well, are you talking about and I was kind of caught up in something else, fires burning up. Did you say you wanted to assign a proper record type when the case is created?
Yeah, the record type is going to be the same every time the case is created, but I was more concerned about the account that it's created against.
What about the account that it's created against? Because if you're creating a case, the account should already exist.
Well, if it's coming in from Web2Case, not necessarily.
Yeah, well, not necessarily. That's
right.
true. Okay. So does it create a brand new account?
No, it's going to an existing generic account.
Yeah, well, I don't even know what you guys got since I don't even know that doctor. I've never seen that doctor that I'm aware of.
Could someone mute him, please?
If you could go on mute.
So, Don, what you can do, if it's always going to go to the same account.
I've never given that name. Anyways, okay. You and I are.
If it's always going to go to the same account, you can actually do a hidden HTML field to specify the account ID.
Account ID, yes.
Yeah, to be that ID value. And then it won't show up in the form, but when it's submitted, that will be included with the HTML submit, and it will be assigned to that account.
Okay.
Just like Web to Lead, if you were going to give any predefined value to Web to Lead, you do the same thing here. Is you embed that hidden that value as a hidden field, so it's not visible on the web form, but behind the scenes it's saying when you create a case, the account ID should be this account, and then it'll attach it to that account.
That's exactly what I need.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add there is that, obviously I would, recommending hard coding the ID is not necessarily pretty. So if you, especially when you're talking about, trying to test in one org and then you go to production, right, and then you have to change up that ID. But what you could do is, and Brian, maybe what I was thinking is, I don't know if it would work in the HTML, but what I've done before where I've had to go down these routes is use custom settings to create a custom setting to essentially store that ID so that you really never have to update the page. You just update that custom setting.
That will only work if you're processing it after the creation, Jared. So with Web to Lead and Web to Case, it can be on any particular website that's completely disassociated with Salesforce, and so it's really doing it almost like an API call, and you have no control over what it actually sends out. So if you're going to use something custom settings, you have to actually write a little bit of Apex code to say go grab the custom settings, and when a case comes in with whatever information so that's Web to Lead, then assign the account ID to that. So that's probably a lot safer from a long-term growth period, but to get right out of the gate, that's kind of heavy-handed.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah. The other thing you should be aware of, Don, whenever you're dealing with Web to Case or Web to Lead, is because of the way that submission form works, spammers have figured out how to do a submission of that form without ever actually going to your web page. So you will get spam. There's almost no way around it.
Okay.
I think the only way I've seen around that, right, is if you have someone who can implement the CAPTCHA, right? Does that help? Yeah.
That can help, or like what I do here is I have a validation rule that kind of checks for some common spam thing, but and that prevents the record from getting created. But then you get an email to say, hey, there's a failure on the Web to Lead or Web to Case, and that gets annoying.
Okay, that is great to know. Thank you very much. I just didn't want to, if I could avoid it, I didn't want to go down the road of writing Apex to do that.
Cool. Awesome. Good
Thank
stuff. All right. We've got about 17 minutes left. Who else has a question out there? It could be Salesforce related, or if you're going to Dreamforce and have some questions on just prepping for Dreamforce, what to expect if you're a first-timer.
Be ready to be overwhelmed. Just kidding.
In a good way.
In a good way, yes.
What's the best method of getting your voice back?
Yeah.
No.
I was going to ask what's the premiere party this year?
It's Bruno Mars.
No, not the gala, but where the premiere party is. Excluding.
You know what? I've not paid any attention. I don't go to any of those parties. These guys are the ones that you want to ask. They're the ones who party.
Well, I'm obligated to say the Apereo party, but that's really hard to get into. There actually is a cool, I guess it's not really like a party, but if you're into like home brews and microbrews, there's a cool little brewery thing going on that on Wednesday where there's actually a fellow MVP who brews his own beer who's in it and sponsoring it. So you should be able to find that out on the community but like the Dreamforce Brew Off. That's always cool.
Cool.
And then if you're staying, I think till Thursday evening, Michael Force, another MVP, has his yearly cigar hangout party thing Thursday evening. So
I think I saw that one.
Those are some shameless plugs. So.
Yeah, I think I'm already on the Ontario list stuff. So.
Perfect. See. Well, if we don't have any other questions,
I have one other question around.
Yeah, go ahead.
Would anybody recommend is there any session not to miss? I know, Deepa, you usually do some sessions that are pretty good.
Well, I will definitely promote my sessions.
Don't miss these.
I will not be shy about that. So let me tell you which ones I'm doing. I'm doing the Formula Ninja session on Monday at noon. After that, I'm on the panel with the women in technology making waves session, which is at 1 p.m. and it's at and you can look those up. I'm also doing a couple sessions in the community theater. For one is about requirements gathering, and other is about what not to do, like what are the things that you shouldn't do when you're implementing Salesforce. And then Tuesday morning, I am doing a session on, and I just realized my calendar is getting so damn screwed up right now. I'm doing a session on the Salesforce fundamentals, the Sales Cloud, so we do cover what we discussed a little bit today in that session. And then after that, pretty much I'm going to be at the admin zone, the Hero Theater, from afternoon on Tuesday until afternoon on Thursday. In between, I'm going to try and attend a few Service Cloud sessions, but literally from like 2 o'clock on Tuesday until 2 o'clock on Thursday, I'm going to be at the theater, the community, and the admin theater, which is on Moscone West on the second floor. I'll be happy to talk to everybody, shake hands, do everything, except on Wednesday, I'm going to be there from 11:30. So in the morning, I'm going to try and attend a couple Service Cloud sessions. But if anyone's interested in Service Cloud, like Salesforce is making really good headway as far as, support is concerned. And so those are what I'm doing. Maybe Brian can tell you what he's doing, and Jared can tell you what he's doing.
Don, I actually posted a blog with all my sessions, and since my voice is completely gone, I'm shooting over the link to Jared, and he can put that link out.
By the way, I also have a blog article that I posted on LinkedIn that has that information, plus other MVPs sessions in there as well.
Oh,
so if you go to LinkedIn and look up my profile, there's a post there for Dreamforce sessions. And let me get you the link for that as well.
Awesome. Yeah. I would say I know one that I had missed years before, or 2 years ago, and I was able to make it last year, was the True to the Core session.
Absolutely.
That
one, I about that. I love that.
Yeah, that one, and you got to get there like early.
Early.
Yeah, so because it is somewhat limited space, so definitely recommend that one for sure. It's a really cool session. And I'll be doing a session on Tuesday morning with Gary Palmatier, and it's all about making the jump from a power user to a power admin, and that'll be at I guess it'll be like 9:30 in the Marriott Marquis. So, and then I'll be around at the admin zone as well. So everybody should definitely come out to the admin zone, and
yes,
we'd love to.
Jared,
chat.
I just posted a link.
Yeah, I saw that. I'm gonna post that out here.
Okay.
Everybody.
We love to say hello to everyone, so please come visit us.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone for your time. We'll end 10 minutes early today. Give back some time to those prepping for Dreamforce, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody out there. And thanks for joining MVP Office Hours.
All right. Goodbye, everybody. Have a wonderful Dreamforce